Millions of years ago, Lucifer attempted to lead a rebellion against God. He was punished and cast out of heaven. He fell straight into hell. The Archangel Michael chained him to a large rock. Michael left his sword behind as a seal. Before leaving, Lucifer swore that one day he would return, equal to God. Over the years, Lucifer gathered demons to plan his revenge. His followers built a mansion around the pit where he had fallen, awaiting his return. In 2022, Laura, an art history researcher, was studying in Italy. She wanted to write a thesis on how great Italian artists didn't truly believe in the angels and demons depicted in their art. But her professor did not approve of the idea, considering it an insult to Italy's history. To make matters worse, he suggested discussing the thesis privately at his apartment, forcing Laura to flee from the creep. Soon after, Laura met Father Marone, who gave her a special pass. This pass granted her access to all the exhibitions in the cathedral, including the new display of the Shroud of Turin. This shroud contained the blood of Jesus from his crucifixion. Father Marone gave Laura a full tour of the place. After viewing the shroud, Marone introduced her to their latest acquisition, a beautiful statue depicting Michael defeating Lucifer. The two discussed the concept of evil for a while. Then Marone left, allowing Laura to stay and draw the statue for her thesis. While drawing, Laura thought she heard someone calling her name, but there was no one around. She assumed it was just her imagination. A few hours later, the exhibition was about to close. A raven flew around the building and landed at the entrance. It transformed into Liz and joined the last group of visitors. Instead of following the guide, Liz took a restricted door, which was noticed by a guard on the security cameras. Liz entered the area with the statues and watched Laura draw from a distance. She only stopped when she saw Lucifer's head on the statue moving. Laura started to worry, looking around and startled by a raven at the window. While Laura was distracted by the bird, Liz quietly took Michael's sword from the statue and left. At that moment, a guard found Laura. He thought she was the hooded figure who had separated from the group, but Laura proved she had permission to be in this area. The guard left, thinking it was just a misunderstanding, after reminding Laura that they were closing soon. Laura gathered her belongings and noticed Michael's hand, but didn't see anything unusual. She then headed for the main door, but the door was locked, so she had to find another way out. As she returned to the hallway, she was horrified to see Liz killing a guard with a sword and beheading him. Terrified, Laura ran and hid in a confessional booth. From there, she saw Liz use the guard's eye to turn off the alarm and break the glass, protecting the shroud with the sword to steal the relic. Marone heard the noise and came to intervene, but Liz simply stabbed him. Right after, Liz's followers arrived to help secure the relic. As they prepared to leave, Liz noticed Laura in the confessional booth and ordered her followers to capture her. After the group left the room, Marone used his last breath to pray. He begged Michael to enter his body to stop Lucifer. Michael immediately descended from heaven and entered the priest's body to pursue Liz's group as they drove away. The angel's power allowed him to run incredibly fast, but the human body couldn't withstand such strength, and Michael had to stop to avoid harming the vessel. Meanwhile, a group of wealthy individuals watched a prodigy child playing the violin masterfully. After the performance doctor, Marone explained that this child was a clone of Antonio Vivaldi. This was just one of the famous names his company had cloned by taking DNA from their graves. The children were then auctioned off to wealthy families, and today, a clone of Michelangelo was being auctioned. During the auction, Liz appeared to inform Lauren that they had secured the shroud. Shortly after, the group arrived at Lucifer's villa. Lauren was thrilled to see the shroud, as he could now attempt to clone Jesus. Meanwhile, Laura was chained in a glass room with Brenda and two other women. One of them wouldn't stop crying and screaming, but Laura gently encouraged her to calm down. Laura also suggested that they should work together, but before they could make a plan, a group of nurses entered the room to check her health. At the same time, Michael returned to the cathedral and found the other priests reviewing the security footage. Everyone was astonished to see Marone alive, but Michael offered no explanation and instead asked about the protectors of the shroud. The priests explained that Cardinal Vincent had been responsible for its protection, but he had become unstable, speaking of demonic beasts and secret cults, signs that everyone attributed to dementia. Michael couldn't believe that the priests didn't believe in what the Bible itself stated. He demanded Vincente's whereabouts and learned that he was now a hermit, living alone in a nursing home. Michael took the security footage, inquired about Laura by showing them her past, and made the priests promise they would tell no one they had seen him. Afterward, Michael borrowed a coat and left in Marconi's car, taking some pain medication he found in the glove compartment to cope with the pain his power caused. Meanwhile, a raven silently followed him, unbeknownst to Michael. While the scientists at the villa worked tirelessly to extract Jesus' DNA from the Shroud, Michael arrived at the nursing home and met Vincente, who was initially armed and fearful. However, as soon as Vincente touched Michael, he sensed that Michael was not just a priest, and immediately believed him when he revealed he was an angel. Vincente knew about Liz and showed Michael the villa they had built around the pit leading to hell, explaining that the nursing home had been constructed as a watch post. The Bible foretold that one day Lucifer would return, and to do so he needed two ancient beings belonging to both worlds. One was a woman, clearly referring to Liz, and the other was the beast of the earth. For years, Lucifer's followers had brought him children for him to possess, but human bodies weren't strong enough to contain him. That's why they stole the Shroud. They planned to clone Jesus, as he was the only one with a body strong enough for Lucifer to inhabit. Michael was disgusted by what he heard and vowed to stop them. Vincente then drove Michael to the foot of the villa's mountain. Michael's presence in the area caused his sword to react, and now Lucifer could pull on the chain to finally free himself from the seal. Inside the villa, the women were trying to break free from their chains while discussing their personal lives, and Laura revealed that she had lost her husband and child. Laurent conducted a series of tests and discovered that Laura had a 100% compatibility rate. Liz ordered him to accelerate the process. Soon after, the nurses returned to the cell to take the women. The women tried to use their chains to defend themselves, but unfortunately, more nurses arrived and quickly subdued them, taking Brenda and Laura to the operating room. There, the doctors implanted eggs fertilized with the DNA of Jesus into their wombs. Liz appeared and introduced herself as an angel of the Lord. She told Laura that she knew Laura was the chosen one because she had seen Laura's sketches of Lucifer in the cathedral and found them very inspiring. Meanwhile, Vincent led Michael to the entrance of a secret cave that led to the villa. Before leaving, Vincent noticed the raven that had been following them and shot it before handing his weapon to Michael. Michael immediately began advancing deeper into the cave. A while later, Laura and Brenda, dressed in wedding gowns, were brought to a gathering of Lucifer's followers and chained to a pillar. Then the beast of the earth appeared, lifted the women and placed them into a giant bird cage, lowering them into a deep well that guarded the entrance to hell. Suddenly, a group of demons appeared around the cage, holding the women down, and Lucifer transformed his body into an essence form to enter Brenda through her mouth. Brenda resisted for a few seconds, but ultimately couldn't withstand it and died. Lucifer then left Brenda's body and entered Laura, who survived the possession without difficulty. Laura emerged in a dazed state, and Liz introduced her as the Chosen One, before taking her to a new glass cell with a bed and vital signs monitor. When Laura asked what was inside her, Liz responded that it was a better Jesus. Back to Michael, he finally found a door in the cave and blasted his way through to open the entrance to the villa. The guards immediately noticed him, and when Michael couldn't use his weapon, he was shot in the shoulder. He responded by taking down the guards with just a few strikes, then stole a uniform and access card to move undetected. Michael entered the lab and retrieved the Shroud before checking the security cameras to locate Laura. At that moment, Laurent entered the lab, but Michael immediately pushed him against the table and demanded an explanation. Laurent only replied that he was working for a new beginning. Michael decided to open the gas canisters and light a flare to blow up the entire lab. Flames burst up between him and the approaching guards. The fire alarm sounded throughout the building, and Laura begged the nurse to let her out. However, he refused to let her leave the cell. Suddenly, Michael appeared and knocked out the nurse. Laura hugged him tightly, thinking Marcone was still alive. However, Michael was distracted when Lucifer began speaking to him telepathically, taunting him about his freedom. Michael couldn't understand why his seal had been broken and became furious, making Laura think he was an enemy. Terrified, Laura ran, but Michael quickly chased her and pulled her into a room before the guards could find her. Laura responded by grabbing his gun and pointing it at him, but Michael convinced her that he was on her side as he bandaged his wound. Then, Laura told him what they had done to her, and Michael decided to take her with him to protect her. Liz saw them leaving and sent her henchmen after them, but she killed one of the guards when he almost shot Laura, as she could not be harmed. Michael and Laura tried to escape through the rest of the cave tunnel, but the baby was growing too quickly, making Laura feel unwell. Their slowed pace allowed the beast to catch up and start attacking Michael. At first, Michael fought well, but his human body began to weaken, and the beast defeated him. Liz arrived with her henchmen and recaptured Laura, who threatened to harm the baby if they hurt the priest. However, Liz reminded her that the priest was already dead, and she only needed to kill the angel. Laura was taken back to the cell and tied to the bed, while Michael was chained in the room with the well. He used his strength to break the chains and free himself, but this left him extremely exhausted. After dragging himself across the floor, he reached the well and opened it, jumping down just before the beast could catch him. As soon as he landed in hell, Michael was attacked by a demon, but he quickly pushed it away. He checked the rock and was shocked to see his sword was no longer there. Several more demons appeared, using Lucifer's sword to imprison Michael in the same way he had done to Lucifer many years ago. Meanwhile, the baby continued growing inside Laura at a supernatural rate. Liz told Laura that this baby would replace the child she had lost, but Laura refused to see them as the same. During an ultrasound, Laura saw the baby on the screen and was horrified as it seemed to crawl out and roar at her. However, she soon woke up and realized it was only a nightmare. She found Liz sitting beside her, wanting to know if Lucifer had spoken to her. When Laura didn't answer, Liz began telling the story of how Lucifer had fought the tyrant they call God. When Laura said she didn't care, Liz slapped her. Liz promised she would free Laura after she gave birth to the baby, but for now, she demanded respect. A while later, a group of children found Michael chained to the rock. It turned out they were failed sacrifices who had worked together to survive in hell. Michael promised to take them home if they could find a sword, but the children were unsure if they could trust an angel, as Lucifer had once been an angel too. Unfortunately, demons interrupted their conversation, causing the children to flee, though a few were captured. Michael could only watch in frustration. Back in the cell, Lucifer's spirit temporarily left Laura's womb and entered her mind through her ear to make an offer she couldn't refuse. If Laura accepted him, Lucifer would help her kill the person who murdered her family, as well as Liz, whom Laura despised. Accepting the deal, Laura lay down on the bed and allowed Lucifer to take over the child. In her dream, she imagined holding and bonding with the child. Liz observed everything and began to worry about Laura becoming too powerful. Later, as a nurse was conducting some tests, Laura used her new powers to turn off the lights and kill the nurse. She left the room and ran into another nurse, whom she immediately attacked and beat to death. Suddenly, Laura snapped out of Lucifer's darkness and was horrified by what she had done. She decided she had to kill the baby before things got any worse. This made Lucifer beg Laura not to do it, calling her mother. Laura ignored Lucifer's voice and ran into a storage room as the guards began chasing her. After locking the door, Laura grabbed a bottle of chlorine and struggled against Lucifer's control to drink it. As she started vomiting and writhing in pain, Liz broke down the door and yelled at Laura for what she had done to the baby. As Liz was about to leave to find a doctor, Laura suddenly used her powers to close the door, push Liz to the ground, and vomit on her face. At this point, Lucifer was controlling Laura's body, punishing Liz for her mistakes. Liz wished she had been the one to carry the child, but Lucifer ignored her pleas and issued new orders. After the birth, no one could know what had happened there, so everyone had to die. He was also concerned about the bond forming between Laura and the child, meaning she had to be killed after the birth. Then Laurent appeared, and Lucifer struck him, demanding that he be saved from the effects of the chlorine. A while later, Laura's body was placed in a recovery pod. Lucifer's spirit temporarily left her body and entered a demon in hell to speak with Michael, mocking his failure. The children hiding in the shadows witnessed this, seeing it as proof that Michael was truly good. After Lucifer left, Michael finally understood why God allowed this to happen. The children came to rescue him, but they weren't strong enough to pull the demon sword from the chains. So they went to find Michael's own sword. They found it among the rubble, but before they could give it to Michael, a group of demons appeared and offered freedom to the children. For a moment, the children hesitated, but then they remembered what they'd heard and handed the sword to Michael. He temporarily regained his old form and defeated the demons, promising the children he would return soon to save them. Michael returned to the mortal realm in Marconi's body and retrieved the shroud before heading back to the main building. He knocked down a guard and took his weapon before going to check on Laura, but only heard Lucifer's voice responding. Desperate to help her, Michael began pushing the recovery pod into another room, which was noticed by a nurse. After locking the door, Michael opened the pod and tried to explain, The baby wasn't what Laura thought, but Lucifer pushed Michael away with a mighty roar. Lucifer then guided Laura's body to stand over Michael and announced that her water had broken, releasing fluid onto the angel and burning his body. Michael tried to escape, but Lucifer held him down, forcing him to bow in worship. When Michael refused, Lucifer used Laura's hand to stab him in the neck, but Lucifer held him down, forcing him to bow in worship. Michael didn't give up and shared his conclusion that God allowed this because if Lucifer entered Jesus' holy body, Jesus would keep him under control and seal him forever. Hearing this, Lucifer grew furious and went into a rage, knocking Michael down. When Liz arrived with the guards, Lucifer commanded her to kill the baby. But Liz thought it was Laura speaking and ordered the guards to take her to the altar over the hell well. Laura gave birth to the baby, and Liz immediately took the baby away. Laura was left alone on the well, and the beast opened the lid to let her fall before joining the others outside. Liz introduced the new savior to Lucifer's followers and declared that the baby would be baptized in blood instead of water. Then the beast began killing all the followers, doctors, and guards. Lauren was shocked, but also relieved to be spared. However, after he kissed the baby's head, the beast killed him too. Meanwhile, Michael regained consciousness, broke the window to escape the room, and headed to the well room, where he found Laura hanging onto the edge. He helped her climb up before they chased after the enemy together. Liz was about to leave with the baby in the car, but Laura jumped in and attacked her, taking the baby. Liz begged her not to harm Lucifer, and Michael explained that the baby wasn't Lucifer. Lucifer hadn't chosen Laura, God had. She had given birth to what would become Lucifer's eternal prison. Laura got in the car and left to find Vincent, while Michael stayed to fight as the gates of hell had opened, meaning the demons would try to escape. Michael rushed to the well and closed it, only for the beast to find him, throwing him aside and attempting to reopen the well. Before the beast could do so, Michael spotted the explosives Liz had left to erase the evidence and activated them, causing an explosion that destroyed the entire facility and sealed the well with rubble. Sometime later, Vincent took Laura and the baby to the cathedral, where they returned the shroud. Michael returned to hell to free all the children as he had promised. Years passed, and Laura lived with Vincent in the asylum to protect the child, who had grown up healthy. One day, Liz sneaked into the forest to observe the family and tried to summon Lucifer. But when the demon tried to escape, the child simply absorbed him back into his body to keep him sealed. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this. Thank you for watching.